Hope that all of you are safe and fine at home. Let us try to learn a part of the lesson, Money and Credit, that is the third chapter in Class 10 Economics textbook. The module that we are going to discuss is Credit Arrangements, Formal and Informal Sources of Credit. As we all know, all questions for term 1 exam will be MCQs. So here is a question for you. See, there is national income of 10,500 in country A and the population is 100 there. In all other countries, national income is less than the national income of country A. To get the per capita income, we have to divide national income with population. So when we divide 10,500 with 100, we will get 105 as the per capita income of country A. Whereas in country B, it will be 100 only, that is per capita income will be 100. In country C, the per capita income will be 95. In country D, per capita income will be 102. So the correct option is country A. Students, may I remind you one thing. Income is not the only one indicator of development. By keeping this in your mind, you should try to understand which among these four states, Haryana, Kerala, Bihar and Himachal Pradesh, is the poorest one, or it is the least developed state. You see here the infant mortality rate of these four states are given, literacy rate of these four states are given, and again net attendance ratio is also given. So we have to see that among these states, Bihar has the highest infant mortality rate. It has the lowest literacy rate and it has the lowest net attendance ratio. Infant mortality rate means among every 1,000 live births, how many of them die before they reach, how many of the newborn babies die before they reach 1 year of age. If it is high in a state, that means the state is not able to take care of the newly born children. So it shows if there is high infant mortality rate in a state, it shows the lack of health facilities in that state, and that state is most likely to be poorer compared to other states. So since literacy rate is the lowest in Bihar and net attendance ratio is also the lowest in Bihar and infant mortality rate is the highest in Bihar, Bihar is the least developed state among these four. Let us try to remember what we had learned in the previous class. We had studied the loan activities of banks. Banks keep, as we all know, only a small proportion of their deposits as cash with themselves. These days, banks in India hold about 15% of their deposits as cash with them. This is kept as provision to pay the depositors who might come to withdraw the money from the bank on any given day. We know that there is a huge demand for loans for various economic activities. People want to start running their own business. People want to engage in self-employment and such activities. Banks charge a high rate of interest on loans than what they offer on deposits. So definitely there will be a difference between what is charged from borrowers and what is paid to the depositors, and this difference is the main source of income for banks. Say for an example, if banks are charging 12% of interest from borrowers, what is paid to the depositor may be 9% interest only. So the remaining 3% interest will be the source of income for banks. Now let us try to learn the terms of credit. Interest rate, collateral, that is something like an asset that is paid by the borrower to the lender to assure the lender that if the borrower is not repaying the money that he is taking as loan, then the lender can sell the collateral or the asset. Collateral will be an asset, so he can sell the collateral or asset and get its money back. That means that lender can get its money back. That is what is known as collateral. Collateral and documentation requirement along with interest rate and mode of repayment together comprise what is known as terms of credit. Terms of credit will be clearly defined, and there will be an agreement between the between the lender and the borrower regarding terms of credit. Terms of credit vary from credit arrangement, one form of credit arrangement, to another form of credit arrangement, especially depending upon the nature of the lender and that of the borrower. Let us try to understand how one credit arrangement is different from another credit arrangement, or depending upon the lender and borrower, how these credit arrangements become different from one kind of borrower to another kind of borrower, and one kind of lender to another kind of lender. So when these situations are different, the terms of credit also will be different. So let us take the case of Shyamal. He is a farmer who owns 15 acres of land. Since he is borrowing money from a village money lender, he has to pay the village money lender 60% of interest per annum. Whereas Arun, who owns 7 acres of land and does some supervision work, he takes loan from formal source of credit. That means he takes loan from bank and he pays only 8.5% interest per annum. And this can be repaid any time in the next 3 years. Whereas you see Rama, she's an agricultural laborer, maybe she doesn't own any land. She often takes fresh loan before the previous one is repaid, and she has to take loan from employer or medium landowner. Interest rate is so high that is 5% per month, and she works for the landowner. So this is a condition that when Rama is taking loan from her employer says that if I want to give you loan, you have to work under me. So Rama agrees to that, or agrees with the lender that she will be ready to work under him. So people take loan from only money lenders in some of the Indian villages because banks are not available, or it's very difficult for people to get loan from banks in the absence of collateral and all. So these village people, especially the farmers and poor people, some of them are illiterate too, so they find it very difficult to get loan from banks. That's why they go to take loan from informal sources like money lenders. From what we have understood by reading the story of Shyamal, Rama, and such people, we understood like getting loan from formal sources of credit is difficult for Indian farmers and small traders and all. Banks always try to minimize the risk of giving loan. As part of minimizing the risk of giving loan to the borrower, bank will always try to see that the borrower is able to repay the loan. Who can repay the loan easily? The rich or the poor? Definitely the rich people can repay the money easily. So bank will always try to see that it is giving larger portion of the deposit that can be given as loan to the people. Bank will give a large share of that to the rich people, considering that they can submit collateral at the time of taking loan, and they will be the kind of people who are more likely to repay the loan. So here comes one of the formal sources of credit, that is cooperatives. Let us try to learn how they function. Cooperatives are major source of credit in rural areas. Industrial workers or agricultural laborers may form cooperatives. They may form cooperatives. Some of them have 2,300 members. Some of them may be 2,000. Some of them maybe 1,800. Some of them may have 5,000 members. What do? These cooperatives accept deposits from borrowers. Sorry, they accept deposits from members. With these deposits as collateral, they will take loan from banks. These funds are used to give loan to the members. So Krishak Cooperative provides loan for the purchase of agricultural implements, loans for cultivation and agriculture trade, fishery loans, loans for construction of houses, and for a variety of other expenses. Now let us try to find out how are the sources of credit in formal sector different from those in informal sector. The terms of credit will be different. Banks are part of the formal sources of credit. Banks will take only very less interest rate from the borrowers, and also cooperative societies also try to give loan to the people by taking very less interest from them. So cooperative societies can decide things related to rate of interest, to whom the loan has to be given, maintaining cash reserve, how much percentage of the deposits should be kept as cash resource, that can be cash reserve can be decided by the cooperatives. All these things are supervised by Reserve Bank of India, that is Central Bank of India. Money lenders, traders and employers, relatives, friends, etc. constitute informal sources of credit. They charge high rate of interest. Some of them charge an interest rate of up to 60%. There is no organization which supervises the credit activities in the informal sector. They can lend at whatever interest they choose, and the cost of the borrower in informal sector is said to be much higher. Higher cost means larger part of earning is used to repay the loan. So here comes the importance of some sort of supervision of the economic activities of lenders. So only the lenders of formal sector can be supervised by Reserve Bank of India. So government also will try to advise these formal sources of loan to make loan available to the maximum number of people. Now you know that formal sources of credit are supervised by Reserve Bank of India and that's the Central Bank of India. Now you can see Shaktikanta Das, and he is the current governor of Reserve Bank of India. We have reached almost the last part of the lesson, Money and Credit, that's the third chapter in Class 10 Economics textbook. The heading is Self-Help Groups. Banks are not present everywhere in India, and even in places where banks are present, poor people are not able to take loan from banks because there is no collateral with them. So this will prevent them from taking loan from banks. Farmers and poor people approach money lenders for loan even without repaying the previous one, because that means the previous loan, because in some cases there is no need for them to give collateral there, and there are less formalities. No records of transactions will be recorded, or no records of transactions will be maintained by the people in the informal sector. So they will give loan to the people who are in need of money without keeping any record of transactions. That's why people find it easy to take loan from informal sources. So there should be someone to help these kinds of people who are finding it very difficult to get loan from formal sources. So that's why in some Indian villages, people have formed, especially the women have formed self-help group with 15 to 20 members, and they will have a saving of maybe it will vary from 25 to 100, and these people will deposit their savings in the self-help group, and using that money as collateral, they will take loan from the bank, and they will try to give loan to the members of SSG, and they will also try to see that the people are able to repay the loan. And in this way, bank also will be sure that SSG will be repaying the loan, so banks will be ready to give loan to SSG. In this way, SSGs help the poor people to get loan from sources which are charging low rate of interest. Again, let us discuss some of the term 1 MCQs. See the situation that is explained in question number 3. Rita is an employee of a multinational company who gets transferred to different countries after every 3 years of service. She has given an opportunity to choose any one out of the 3 countries mentioned in the table below as her next job location. She calculates average income of all these 3 countries as per the given data and chooses to be transferred to country A. Identify the reason for which Rita has chosen country A. See, in country A, you can see that the income of people, that is 9,500, 10,500, 9,800, 10,000, 10,200. The per capita income of all these people will be 10,000 then. So that is not much different from the income earned one by each person is not much different from the per capita income. Whereas you see there is greater disparity between greater inequalities there between the there is greater inequality among the people of country B. Again, you see in country C, half of the total money earned by all these 5 people, half of the money is earned by a single individual. So there is greater disparity or inequality in country C and country B. That's why Rita finds it like there is more equitable distribution of income in country A. That's why she has chosen to work in country A. Let us discuss 2 more MCQs. Karthik works in a company. He gets good salary, paid holidays, and other benefits such as gratuity, medical allowance, etc. In which of the sectors is he working then? Surely, he is working in organized sector because these things like regular salary, paid holidays, etc. are given to the employees only in organized sector. Now the next question. Read the following assertion and reason and find out which among the following option is true. Children, I advise all of you to read these kinds of questions very well. Then only you will be able to answer them. Don't be in a hurry to answer these kinds of questions. So the first question is, the first question in the category of assertion reasoning type. Here it is, the question is given here. National income alone cannot be considered as an indicator of development. Development should be measured in terms of per capita income. Here you see, assertion is correct, but reason is wrong. Development should not be measured in terms of per capita income. Per capita income will not give us any idea about the economic inequality that exists in the country. Not only that, income is not the only one indicator of development. So here, the option assertion is true, but reason is false will be correct. Option C will be correct. With this, I would like to temporarily stop teaching the lessons today. We will continue learning another day. That's all for the time being. Thank you for being with me. Take care. Stay safe.